Chapter Light. Multiple choice questions. The ray of light striking at the reflecting surface is called incident ray. The angle of incidence is always to the angle of reflection. The angle of incidence is always equal to the angle of reflection. There are two laws of reflection. The process of bending of seven colors is called dispersion. The image formed by plane mirror is real, is virtual and erect. The image that can be obtained on the screen is called real image. Reflection from a smooth surface is regular. Angle between normal and incident ray is called as angle of incidence. An example of luminous object is a star. An example of night bird is an owl. Very short answer questions. What makes things visible? Light makes things visible. Can you see an object in the dark? We cannot see an object in the dark. What is mirror? A smooth and shiny surface is called a mirror. What kind of image is formed by a plane mirror? The image formed by a plane mirror is virtual and erect. Where is the image formed by a plane mirror? The image formed by a plane mirror is behind the mirror. Where does the image form in our eye? The image forms on retina in our eye. Where is no image formed? No image is formed on the blind spot on retina. For what time the image stays on the retina? The image stays on retina for about 1/16th of a second. Which bird is called night bird? Owl is called a night bird. Which surface shows regular reflection? Smooth or regular surface shows regular reflection. Which surface shows diffused reflection? Rough or irregular surface shows diffused reflection. What size of image formed in a plane mirror? In a plane mirror, the image formed is same size as that of object. How many mirrors are used in kaleidoscope? 3 mirrors are used in kaleidoscope. How many colors are there in spectrum of light? There are 7 colors in spectrum of light. How many colors are there in white light? There are 7 colors in white light. What is the shape of human eye? The human eye is spherical in shape. What is the front transparent part of eye called? The front transparent part of eye is called as cornea. What is the small opening in the iris called? The small opening in the iris is called as pupil. Which part of eye is controlled by iris? The opening of the pupil is controlled by iris. What is the colored part of eye called as? The colored part of eye is called as iris. What is the function of iris? Iris controls the amount of light entering into the eye through pupil. Where is the image formed in the eye? The image is formed at retina in eye. Which part of the body sends the sensation felt to the brain? The cells called as nerve cells are responsible for sending the sensation felt to the brain. How many kinds of nerve cells are there in retina? There are 2 types of nerve cells, cones and rods. Which cells of the retina are sensitive to bright light and color? The cells called as cones are responsible for colored vision. Which cells of retina are sensitive to dim light? Rods are sensitive to dim light. What is the distinct vision of normal eye? The distinct vision of normal eye is 25 centimeters. Who invented a system of reading for blind man? Braille invented the system of reading for blind man. What is the relation in the size of image and object in case of plane mirror? The relation in the size of image and object in case of plane mirror is that both are of same size. How do we see the objects? We see the objects due to reflection of light. What is the relation of angle of incidence and angle of reflection? Angle of incidence and angle of reflection both are equal. What is the other name of diffused reflection? The other name of diffused reflection is irregular reflection. How many plane mirrors are required to form multiple images? Two or more than two plane mirrors are required for formation of multiple images. Are the shapes of eyes of all animals same? No, animals have eyes of different shapes. Write two sources of vitamin A. Carrots and green vegetables are rich sources of vitamin A. Short answer questions. What is reflection? When rays of light return at some angle by striking a smooth surface, this phenomenon is called as reflection of light. What is incident ray? The light ray which strikes any surface is called the incident ray. What is a reflected ray? The ray that comes back from the surface after reflection is known as the reflected ray. Define normal. A perpendicular line on the mirror at the point where incident ray strikes is called normal. Define angle of incidence. The angle between the normal and the incident ray is called the angle of incidence. Define angle of reflection. The angle between the normal and reflected ray is called angle of reflection. Write the laws of reflection. There are two laws of reflection. Angle of incidence is equal to angle of reflection. Incident ray, reflected ray, and normal at the point of incidence all lie in the same plane. What is lateral inversion? When an image is formed by a mirror, the left of the object appears on the right and right appears on the left. This is called as lateral inversion. What do you mean by diffused or irregular reflection? When all the parallel rays reflected from a rough or irregular surface are not parallel, the reflection is known as diffused or irregular reflection. Define regular reflection. When reflected rays from a smooth surface are parallel, it is known as regular reflection. What do you mean by multiple images? When two mirrors are kept parallel to each other, then numerous images of an object are seen in these mirrors. This is known as multiple images. What is the use of kaleidoscope? Designers of wallpapers, fabrics, artists use kaleidoscope to get ideas for new patterns. Define dispersion of light. Splitting of light into its 7 colors is known as dispersion of light. Give an example of natural dispersion. Rainbow is a natural phenomenon showing dispersion. What is the function of rods and cones in our eye? Cones are sensitive to bright light and color, whereas rods are sensitive to dim light. What is blind spot? At the junction of the optic nerve and retina, there are no sensory cells, so no vision is possible at the spot. This is called blind spot. What is the function of eyelids? Eyelids prevent any object from entering the eye. They also shut out light when not required. What is the Braille system? Louis Braille developed a system for visually impaired persons. This is known as Braille system. He developed Braille code for common languages. What is the difference between the ray of light and beam of light? A ray of light A ray of light is an idealization. In reality, we have a narrow beam of light. Beam of light is made up of several rays. For simplicity, we use the term ray of light for narrow beam of light. What are illuminated objects? Normally, we see the object due to reflection of light. Moon, for example, receive light from sun and reflects it. That is how we see the moon. The objects which shine in the light of other objects are called illuminated objects. For example, moon is an illuminated object. Long answer questions. What is reflection of light? State the laws of reflection. Reflection is a phenomenon in which a beam of light falls on some surface and returns back in different directions. It may be regular or irregular. Following are the laws of reflection. When a ray of light falls on a reflecting surface, it is reflected back in such a way that the angle of incidence is equal to the angle of reflection. The incident ray, the normal and the reflected ray all lie in the same plane. What are the characteristics of image formed by plane mirror? Characteristics of image formed by a plane mirror are: plane mirror forms virtual image, plane mirror forms erect image, image is laterally inverted, image formed is of the same size as the object. The distance of image from the mirror is equal to the distance of the object from the mirror. How will you prove that the angle of incidence is equal to the angle of reflection? Draw lines showing the position of the plane mirror, the incident ray and the reflected ray on the paper with the help of your friends. Remove the mirror. Draw a line making an angle of 90 degree to the line representing the mirror at the point where the incident ray strikes the mirror. This line is known as the normal. The angle between the normal and incident ray is called the angle of incidence. The angle between the normal and the reflected ray is known as the angle of reflection. Measure the angle of incidence and the angle of reflection. Repeat the activity several times by changing the angle of incidence. You will see that at every time the angle of incidence is equal to the angle of reflection. This proves that the angle of incidence is equal to the angle of reflection. Remove the mirror. Draw a line making an angle of 90 degree to the line representing the mirror at the point where the incident ray strikes the mirror. This line is known as the normal. The angle between the normal and incident ray is called the angle of incidence. The angle between the normal and the reflected ray is known as the angle of reflection. Measure the angle of incidence and the angle of reflection. Repeat the activity several times by changing the angle of incidence. You will see that every time the angle of incidence is equal to the angle of reflection. This proves that the angle of incidence is equal to the angle of reflection. Explain the structure and working of a human eye. The eye has a roughly spherical shape. The outer coat of the eye is white. It is tough so that it can protect the interior of the eye from accident. Its transparent front part is called cornea. Behind the cornea, we find a dark muscular structure called iris. In the iris, there is a small opening called pupil. The size of the pupil is controlled by iris. The iris controls the amount of light entering into eye. Behind the pupil of the eye is a lens which is thicker at the center. The lens focuses light on the retina. The retina contains several nerve cells. Sensations felt by the nerve cells are then transmitted to the brain through the optic nerve. There are two kinds of cells, rods and cones. What is Braille system? Braille is a method of writing for visually impaired persons. This system was invented by Louis Braille in 1821 and adopted in 1932. He was also a blind person. In this method, text is written on a thick paper using special symbols representing the letters of alphabet. Groups of dots are employed to write letters. There is Braille code for common languages, mathematics and scientific notation. Braille system has 63 dot pattern. Each pattern represents a letter, a combination of letters, a common word for, or a grammatical sign. Dots are arranged in cells of two vertical rows of 3 dots each. Codes of music and mathematics are different. Any language can be read through the codes of Braille. Fill in the blanks with suitable word. The ray which strikes any surface is called incident ray. The ray which returns after striking the surface is called reflected ray. A line drawn perpendicular to the incidence point is called normal. The image formed by plane mirror is called virtual image. Reflection from a smooth and shiny surface is called regular reflection. Reflection from a rough surface is called diffused reflection. The object which emit the light is called luminous object. Plane mirror forms only a single image of an object. When two mirrors are set parallel to each other, then they form numerous images of an object. Splitting of light into its colors is known as dispersion of light. The size of the pupil is controlled by iris. Kaleidoscope is based on the concept of multiple reflections. Rods and cones are sensitive to dim and bright light. Match the following: cornea, front part of eye; pupil, small opening in the cornea; blind spot, no image is formed; rods are sensitive to dim light; cones are sensitive to bright light; iris controls the size of the pupil; retina is where image is formed; rainbow shows dispersion of light; band of 7 colors is called as spectrum; normal vision 25 centimeter; blind spot, no sensory cells; pupil controlled by iris; Braille system for visually challenged; daylight birds, kite and eagle. Cones and rods are the light sensitive cells. True. Kaleidoscope is based on the principle of spectrum. False. Rods are sensitive to bright light. False. The image formed by plane mirror is laterally inverted. True. The angle of incidence is greater than angle of reflection. False. Cones of our eye are responsible for color vision. True. On blind spot there are no sensory cells. True. If particles of dust enter eye, then we should rub eye properly. False. Two mirrors are inclined to each other, give multiple images. True. Visually challenged persons can read and write using the Braille system. True. Draw a diagram to show the reflection of light and answer the following questions. What is angle of reflection? What is angle of incidence? What is the relation between angle of incidence and angle of reflection? The angle between the normal and the reflected ray is called angle of reflection, angle R. The angle between normal and incident ray is called angle of incidence, angle I. Angle of incidence is equal to angle of reflection, that is angle I is equal to angle R. Draw a diagram to show image formation in a plane mirror and answer the following questions irrespective of plane mirror. What is the size of image of a 5 cm high object? What is the position of image if the object is placed at 10 cm far away from the mirror? What is the nature of image? The size of image will be same as object, that is 5 centimeters. The image is formed behind the mirror at 10 cm away from the mirror. The nature of image will be virtual and erect. Draw the diagram of irregular reflection and regular reflection. Uneven surface shows irregular reflection. Even surface or smooth surface shows regular reflection. Answer the questions. What does the figure show? Define the phenomenon. Name the natural phenomenon due to this process. How many colors are there in the sunlight? Name them. The figure shows dispersion of light. Splitting of white light into its constituent colors is known as dispersion of light. The natural phenomenon is called rainbow. There are 7 colors in the sunlight. The names of the colors are violet, indigo, blue, green, yellow, orange, red. In short, we know them by the word vibgyor. Quiz time. How are we able to see an object which is not self-illuminating like the sun or the stars? We can see an object when our eyes receive light reflected from the object. What are the laws of reflection? There are two laws of reflection. Angle of incidence is equal to angle of reflection. The incident ray, normal, and the reflected ray all lie in the same plane. What do you mean by a ray of light? The term ray is used for a narrow beam of light. What would happen if we throw the light along the normal? Light will be reflected back along the normal. What is light? Light is a form of energy that gives us sensation of vision. Does angle of incidence always equal to angle of reflection? No, it is not equal when this phenomenon takes place on an irregular surface. How many mirrors are used in a kaleidoscope? There are 3 rectangular mirrors used in kaleidoscope. Define dispersion. The splitting of light into 7 colors is called dispersion of light. What is the shape of our eye? Our eye is spherical in shape. Which part of our eye controls the pupil? The size of the pupil is controlled by the iris. Who developed the system of visually impaired person? Who developed the system for visually impaired persons? Louis Braille in 1821 developed a system for visually impaired persons. We can see an object only when light from an object enters our eyes. The light may have been emitted by the object or may have been reflected by the object. A mirror changes the direction of light that falls on it. Actually, a narrow beam of light is made of several rays. For simplicity, we use the term ray of light for a narrow beam of light. Reflection. The mirror surface or a shiny surface scatters back a beam of light falling on it. This scattering back of light by mirror or shiny surface is known as reflection. The ray of light which falls on the mirror is called incident ray. The point at which incident ray falls on the surface of a mirror is called point of incidence. The ray that comes back from the surface of a mirror after reflection is known as the reflected ray. Normal, a perpendicular, a line making an angle of 90 degree at the point of incidence where the incident ray strikes the mirror is known as the normal to the reflecting surface at point. The angle between the incident ray and the normal is called angle of incidence. The angle between the normal and the reflected ray is called angle of reflection. Laws of reflection. The angle of incidence is equal to the angle of reflection. The incidence the incident ray, the normal at the point of incidence, and the reflected ray all lie in the same plane. The image formed by a plane mirror. The image formed by a plane mirror is erect, it is virtual, and is of the same size as the object. The image is at the same distance behind the mirror as the object in front of it. Lateral inversion. The left side of the object is seen on the right side in the image, and the right side of the object appears to be on the left side in the image. This is known as lateral inversion. Irregular and regular reflection. When rays of light fall on uneven shiny surface, the reflected rays are scattered in all directions. In this case, reflected rays are not parallel. Such a reflection is known as diffused or irregular reflection. It is caused due to irregularities of the reflecting surface. When rays of light fall on smooth shiny surface, they are reflected in a particular direction as shown and are parallel. Such a reflection is called regular reflection. Images are formed by regular reflection. Nearly everything we see around is seen due to reflected light. The objects which shine in the light of other objects are called illuminated objects. The objects which emit their own light are known as luminous objects. Periscope. The periscope makes use of two plane mirrors placed in Z-shaped box at 45-degree angle. Due to reflection from mirror 1 and reflection from mirror 2, one is able to see objects which are not visible directly. Periscopes are used in submarines, tanks, and also by soldiers in bunker to see things outside. Kaleidoscope. It is based on the principle of multiple reflections. It consists of three plane mirrors arranged at 60-degree angle to each other in a tube. One end of the tube is closed with the two circular glass discs, the inner being transparent glass and outer being ground glass. Glass pieces or bangle pieces of various colors are kept between the two discs. The other end is covered with transparent glass disc through which one can view the glass pieces. Due to reflection in mirrors, hexagonal patterns of colored bangles can be seen. As the tube is slowly rotated, new floral designs with different color combinations can be seen. An interesting feature of a kaleidoscope is that you will never see the same pattern again. Designers of fabrics, wallpapers, and artists use kaleidoscope to get the idea for new patterns. Dispersion. Splitting of light into its constituent colors is called dispersion. The sunlight is reflected as white light that consists of 7 colors. Structure of the eye. Cornea. The outer coat of the eye is white. Its transparent front part is called as cornea. Iris. A dark muscular structure present behind cornea is called iris. The color of the iris determines the color of the eye. Pupil. It is a small opening in the iris. The size of the pupil is controlled by the iris. Thus, iris controls the amount of light entering into the eye. Eye lens. It is a double convex lens situated behind the iris. The eye lens has the capacity to change its focal length so that it can focus the images of objects at different distances on the retina of the eye. Retina. It is the innermost layer of the eyeball on which eye lens focuses the image. Retina consists of nerve cells. Visual sensations are felt by nerve cells. Cone cells, they are sensitive to bright light. Cone cells sense colors. Rod cells, they are sensitive to dim light. Optic nerves, sensations felt by the nerve cells of the retina are transmitted to the brain through the optic nerves. Blind spot and yellow spot. At the junction of the optic nerve and the retina, there are no rods and cones, so no vision is possible at that spot. This spot is called blind spot. Yellow spot is located at the center of the retina. It has maximum concentration of light sensitive cells. The impression at the image persists for about 1/16 of a second on retina even after we have stopped seeing the object. If still image of a moving object are flashed on the eye at a rate faster than 16 seconds, then the eye perceives this object as moving. Range of normal vision. The distance between the infinity and 25 centimeter is called range of normal vision. The most comfortable distance at which one can read with a normal eye is about 25 centimeters. Cataract. It is the eye disease in which eye lens becomes opaque and eye sight becomes foggy. The disease is treated by removing the opaque lens and inserting a new artificial lens. Lack of vitamin A in diet may cause many eye diseases such as night blindness. Braille. Louis Braille developed a system for visually impaired persons and published it in 1821. Braille system has 63 dot patterns or characters. These patterns when embossed on Braille sheets help visually impaired persons to recognize words by touching. Owl can see very well in the night. It has a large cornea and large pupil to allow more light in its eyes. Its retina has a large number of rods but only a few cones. These features enable an owl to see in the night. During the day, the large pupil allows so much of light in the eye that the owl cannot see objects. Light, the form of energy which helps us to see the objects. The light moves in straight line. Mirror, a glass piece whose one side is polished and other remains smooth or shiny, is called mirror. Mirror can change the direction of light. The beam of light is made up of several rays. Illuminated objects. The objects which shine in the light of other objects are called illuminated objects. For example, moon. Multiple images. When two or more plane mirrors are used in combination, then a large number of images are formed. It is called multiple images.